practice here in our town, and they are just they're loving sharing the patches. And so we had to have her come on and share her story and a little bit more. She knows so much about the technology because being a doctor, she of course she researched this and did a deep dive on this for she was going to use it on herself, her children, and people in her practice. So thank you so much, Dr. Kaler, for coming on tonight. We're honored to have you.
Thank you so much. So, yes, I am Dr. Kayla Abide. I'm in the upstate of South Carolina with these two lovely ladies, April and Grace. I was introduced to the patches in my practice, but we divinely just moved right next door to Grace right before that happened, and they became incredible practice members of our chiropractic community. And so it's been about 16 months of patching for myself, my husband, and my family. I am a pediatric prenatal and animal chiropractor who has a practice, as well as a nutritionist and a German new medicine practitioner. So I serve people virtually and in person. So I have a massive community of patchers that I've witnessed incredible miracles that I could spend hours talking about. But I really wanted to share one that's super passionate to me that I'm currently in the phase of life with. I have resolved my celiac disease through patching and German new medicine. I've also witnessed skin conflicts with my daughter and just miraculous healings within my family. But I really wanted to focus on what this pregnancy has been like compared to my other two pregnancies. So, my other two pregnancies, I have two other children, two other toddlers, almost 6 and almost 4, which I had really great pregnancies through. I take care of myself, I move my body, I get chiropractic care, I eat right, I do all of the things right, and I have for a long time now. And my two pregnancies, tend to have wild pregnancies. I do my own prenatal care. I don't tap into the system. And I've had free births at home with just me and my family, keeping it very sovereign and close to the way of Mother Nature and God allows us to live and heal and thrive. And so those two pregnancies were really great pregnancies. I didn't actually experience vomiting. I had, some typical pregnancy cravings and food aversions. But the difference there is I was in full-time practice and full-time growing my business, both my virtual business, my in-person practice. And so I was constantly drained. I was working 12 hours a day. I was on my feet. I was adjusting patients. I was working in the virtual world, serving them online. I was parenting a toddler in my second pregnancy because my children are only just 2 years apart, my first two. So I was pregnant and then postpartum and then pregnant again right away. And so overall, those first two pregnancies and births were really great, but I didn't even know what I had access to. And so I started patching about 8 months prior to this pregnancy. It was something that me and my husband added in part of our preconception protocol because preconception is really important to us. We work with people on preconception and fertility a lot in our practice. So prepping our bodies for that healthy expression and growing of new life. So patches were a huge part of that for me. So when we first started patching, I had just since resolved a massive kidney conflict myself. I had gone through lots of health, expressions as I was prepping for pregnancy, and the patches were a huge part of that. And so when I started patching for pregnancy, in terms of that, I started with X39. I was constantly working out, doing high intensive, heavy lifting, high intensity workouts at, if you're familiar with Burn Boot Camp, that's my jam. So I loved working out, being active, and always being on my feet, serving people, and with two busy toddlers. So I was wearing X39, X49, Eon, Carnosine, and I love Alavita. So Alavita is my nighttime patch. I love it so much. So that was really my regimen when I first found out I was pregnant, leading up to pregnancy as well. And so my first trimester started off way different than my other two first trimesters. I was not actually in full-time practice anymore. I've been unschooling my children and running a full virtual business online in addition to sharing LifeWave. And so my husband has since taken over our private practice in person. So we were actually traveling a lot more. I traveled through my first trimester. I didn't have any food aversions. I had no brain fog. The mental clarity was so strong. I was still working out 3 to 4 times a week intensively at Burn Boot Camp. I had, of course, your typical fatigue as my body was growing new life, but it was so different than the first 2 times. I felt like I was able to adequately rest and feel recovered even while doing other things. I wasn't working out in previous pregnancies because I was so bombarded and so tired. By the end of those like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. nights, I was taking naps during those pregnancies. I was falling asleep, like talking to me. I was falling asleep after a long day. The running joke is my husband always cracks up that this pregnancy's been so different. He actually can communicate with me. I'm not just sitting here kind of falling asleep and having to regenerate and rejuvenate all the time. So throughout the first trimester, I stayed consistent. Of course, I added a lot of X49 after my recoveries on the days I was super active and stayed consistent with X39, Eon, Carnosine, and Alavita. And then the second trimester, as if we were going to slow down, I actually sped up. I spent 20 days in Europe, 7 days of that on the LifeWave cruise. The rest of those days, I, pretty much walked 25,000 steps or more minimum a day throughout Europe. I went on a women's retreat. We went on a pilgrimage to the south of France where I hiked for 7 hours and over 3,000 feet of elevation at 20 weeks pregnant. I recovered easily. I slept great. I had no brain fog. And I noticed at this point in time, as of course my womb was growing, all of the stretch marks from my previous pregnancies had been gone. They had just completely faded, along with other tissues. Like I've had surgical scars, keloids had started to really level themselves out. And so I was actually like blown away that my skin was changing. I had varicose veins from previous pregnancies that were resolving themselves as well. And so I kept on continuing using the same patches because I was like, wow, this, I didn't have, symptoms. I was just allowing my body to thrive optimally with my own light, healing exactly what my body wanted to heal and prioritize. And so here I am. I'm now 36 weeks pregnant. I'm literally can give birth, I guess, at any time at this point. And my third trimester has been even more pedal to the metal. I am growing a massive LifeWave team. We have been implementing in several different countries. I'm constantly on calls all day long. I'm in my practice. I'm still physically adjusting animals, which by this point in other pregnancies, I was done adjusting animals. So I'm adjusting animals still. I'm still active. I have two crazy toddlers, and I'm constantly go, go, go. I actually think I've taken 2 whole naps this entire pregnancy. I am awake from 8 a.m., go to bed, finish up calls around 10 p.m. Me and my husband still get to communicate, have time together, fall asleep at 11. I wake up feeling rejuvenated, and I'm still able to have that full energy. So for me, it has been a huge, massive shift. I never knew I could experience pregnancy in a much more abundant and vital way than I did the first 2 times. Because, like I said, I didn't have a lot of those intensive pregnancy symptoms that a lot of people experience. But this time, I will say the only thing that I have experienced that is much different than the other pregnancies, and it may just be because this is my third baby and my body knows what it's doing. But I've had, that increased constant relaxation and stretch of my hips as I'm preparing, leading towards birth. And I'm so grateful for LifeWave. And it's not even pain. It is just a stretch and like a ligamentous, almost like active recovery feeling. And the LifeWave, I'm able to put white on right, tan on left, right over my greater trochanter area, and my hips just feel so relaxed. I'm still wearing all the same patches. And I am just so excited to go into not just birth, but postpartum, because all of you who've had children know that after cramps are literally worse than childbirth. Especially the more children that you have. And so for me, that is the reason why I'm so excited about patching, especially in postpartum, because I dare not really wanted to take anything after the second round of after, or the second baby I had of after cramps. And I held off, but I would say those were so awful. They were worse than actual birth themselves. And so I'm excited to have LifeWave to utilize and continue patching in postpartum and explore that for myself. And so while I've worn patches throughout pregnancy, of course, my children wear them as well. So my children love X39 and Eon. Every single night, my children ask for an Eon patch to put on their foot before they fall asleep because it helps them rest. If they have nightmares or they have different health expressions that they're going through, we've used anything from carnosine to glutathione to alavita. And both of my children have resolved lots of health expressions through patches as well. But I wanted to really share my passion because being a pediatric and prenatal chiropractor, I serve women of all shapes and sizes and different phases of life. And this has been something that has been so integral in their experiences. And so, while I'm not going to ever recommend anybody to make any health choices based off of what I'm saying or recommendations, I highly recommend you look into these patches in terms of making sovereign choices and consulting with those that you have in your own cohort to serve you in the medical world, to make those best decisions for yourself. Because for me, it was a no-brainer because I take care of my body, I take care of my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health. And for me, going out in the sunlight is the same as phototherapy as putting these patches on my body. And so for me, it was 100% no-brainer. I knew that I wanted to try something different because they had made such a huge impact in my life leading up to pregnancy, and they become such a special, very passionate expression of my health and vitality that I just can't stop telling not just everybody, but especially women and children about them because there's so much potential that our body has in order to heal via our own light because our innate intelligence and God-given potential is just so incredibly powerful and I think so untapped. Even where we're at now, it's so untapped. We have so much more vitality that we could all tap into.